Welcome everybody. This is lesson 12.6 on matrix equations. So our content objective is going to be to use the inverse matrix to solve equations, apply matrices to systems of equations, and our learning objective is explain how to solve a system of equations using matrices. So before we can get to solving systems of equations using matrices, we just need to be able to solve some basic matrix equations. So you'll see here I've got this matrix. It's a 2 by 2 matrix, 2, -1, -2, 3, times y. Y is just going to represent some matrix. And the answer to this would be this 2 by 1 matrix, where the answer is 4 and 8. If we wish to solve this, and we were kind of doing this the other day with the cryptography activity that we did in class. We know that if we have this 2 by 2, and if we're multiplying it by this, we're getting this result. So this is a multiplication problem. So what we can simply do is find the inverse of this 2 by 2 matrix, and then we can use that inverse, multiply that inverse by this 2 by 1 matrix, and we'll be able to actually find what this matrix would be. So in order to do that, we're going to do this one all the way through, where we're going to use the determinant. So the determinant for this would be 1/4. And if you need to remember how to find this for this determinant, go back to lesson 12.5, where we talk about how to find the determinant. And then we're going to multiply that by the rearranged version of this, where I want you to be able to see here, A and D switch spots, so 3 and 2. And then B and C, which is the -1, -2, we make them negative. They're already negative, so if I apply a negative to those, that is going to make them positive. And if I were to do that, that's going to give me 3 times 1/4. It's going to give me 3/4 and 1/4 and 2/4, which is 1/2. And let's see, and another 1/2. And this is my inverse. Now I can take this inverse and I can multiply it by this matrix here, the 4 and the 8, because we can multiply a 2 by 2 and a 2 by 1. And what I'll get is a 5 and 6 in a 2 by 1 matrix. And so this is what y equals. Y equals this matrix. Okay? So we did this one the long way. Now we're going to try another one. This example, we have a 2 by 2 matrix times y equals another 2 by 2 matrix. So what we'll do is we'll take the inverse of this matrix, and you can just simply do this in the calculator. You can go into the matrix editing application on the calculator. You can plug in these numbers and then take the inverse. And if we do that, we find we get the inverse is -1, -1/2, 1, and 1. So that is the inverse of this matrix. And now I'm going to take that and I'm going to multiply it by this matrix, which is a 2 by 2. And when I do that, I get another 2 by 2 matrix that has the numbers -3/2, -3/2, 2, and 2. And there's our solution. So this matrix here is what y equals. That's this matrix. And so this allows us to be able to find an unknown matrix when we know two other matrices. We simply have to take one of those matrices, specifically this one, and we need to find its inverse, multiply it by the answer to this equation, and then that gives us our original unknown matrix.